In our last video, we looked at how the philosophers of the Frankfurt School viewed the modern workplace. We talked about it as a tragedy, a cold, giant, centralized machine of instrumental reason that crushes human nature under the weight of a giant bureaucratic spreadsheet. We painted a picture of a top-down iron cage, where you are the victim trapped inside an inhumane structure. It's a compelling, terrifying story. But what if it's wrong? What if the reality of modern work is actually much worse? What if there is no giant machine? What if there is no evil corporate overlord pulling the strings? What if the cage isn't made of iron at all, but of language, symbols, and green status icons? And what if the door isn't locked from the outside? What if you are the one holding the key, actively building the walls around yourself every single day? Today we are shifting the lens. We are moving away from the tragedy of the Frankfurt School and stepping into the surreal, hyperreal maze of post-structuralism. Through the ideas of Michel Foucault, Jean Baudrillard, and Gilles Deleuze, we are going to look at why your job doesn't just feel exploitative, it feels fake. We are going to explore how modern organizations stopped managing physical reality and started managing a grand hallucination. And more importantly, we're going to find out why you have become your own most ruthless middle manager. To understand how power actually operates in a contemporary office or remote workflow, we have to start with Michel Foucault and his 1975 masterpiece, Discipline and Punish. Foucault borrowed an architectural concept from an 18th century English philosopher named Jeremy Bentham. Bentham designed a theoretical prison called the Panopticon. It was a circular building where the inmates' cells lined the outer wall, completely bathed in light, while a single observation tower sat in the dead center. The trick was that the tower windows were completely covered. The prisoners could look at the tower, but they could never see inside. They could never actually know if a guard was watching them at any given second. Bentham realized that because the prisoners might be watched at any moment, they had to assume they were always being watched, so they began to police themselves. Foucault's genius was realizing that the Panopticon didn't stay locked inside prison walls. Modernity took that blueprint and dissolved it into the fabric of our everyday institutions, especially our workplaces. Think about how ancient power worked. The king sat on a throne, wore a crown, and held public executions. Power was highly visible. But in a post-structuralist corporate world, power undergoes an inversion of visibility. The bosses, the executives, the shareholders, they are largely invisible to you. They hide behind corporate entities and private instant message channels. But you, the worker, are entirely visible. You are tracked by keystroke loggers. Your productivity bubble must stay green. Your email response times are logged. Your calendar is publicly visible to the entire organization. But here is Foucault's most terrifying point. The ultimate goal of the Panopticon is to make the guard in the tower entirely unnecessary. When you feel that automated, anxious urge to wiggle your mouse to prevent your stylus from turning to away, who is forcing you to do that? No one is standing over you with a whip. No manager is actively watching your screen at that exact second. You have internalized the gaze of the tower. You have trained your own mind to enforce the organization's discipline upon yourself. We are no longer cogs forced into a machine. We have become our own jailers. Power has become productive. It has successfully re-engineered your psychology to make you a self-regulating, compliant, docile body. But this self-surveillance leads to a bizarre consequence. If we are constantly performing productivity for an invisible watcher, what happens to the actual work? To answer that, we have to step into the brilliant, deeply surreal mind of the Jean Baudrillard. In his philosophy of simulacra and simulation, Baudrillard argued that modern society has become completely detached from physical reality. Instead, we live in a world of symbols, signs, and images, what he called simulacra, a term that goes back to Plato. Eventually, these symbols become more important than the reality they were originally supposed to represent. He called this state hyperreality. To truly understand how Jean Baudrillard flipped the world of cultural theory on its head, we have to first travel back to the foundations of language laid by the Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure. For Saussure, a sign was the basic unit of communication, built like two sides of a single coin. On the one side, there is the signifier, a word, a sound, or an image. On the other side sits the signified, the mental concept that form conjures in your mind. Think of the word tree. The sound of those letters is the signifier, and the mental image of a leafy, rooted plant is the signified. Crucially, Saussure believed that signs were grounded. They always anchored us to a shared objective reality, allowing us to make sense of the actual world around us. To understand exactly where Saussure was coming from, we have to realize that his theory of language doesn't take place out in the physical world, but entirely inside the human mind. For Saussure, a sign is a purely psychological connection. The signifier isn't the physical ink on a page or the vibration of sound waves in the air. It is your brain's mental impression of that sound or word. In similar fashion, the signified is not the physical wooden tree growing out of the dirt, which linguists call the referent. Instead, the signified is the abstract mental concept of a tree that flashes in your mind's eye when you hear the word. Saussure's entire universe of language is a closed psychological system where our internal mental concepts neatly map onto each other to help us categorize the outside world. This psychological distinction is precisely where Baudrillard stages his radical intervention. If Saussure's sign was already a closed mental loop, detached from physical reality, Baudrillard realized that modern consumer capitalism had weaponized this detachment. In our media-saturated world, the signifier has completely swallowed the signified. When we consume today, we are not engaging with Saussure's stable mental concepts of utility or need, nor are we interacting with real-world reference. Instead, we are consuming pure, hollowed-out signifiers, brand logos, media images, and digital simulations that relate only to others' signifiers in an endless self-referential loop. By showing that the signifier no longer needs a signified to function, Baudrillard reveals our terrifying modern reality, a hyperreal world where the images we consume have completely replaced the actual world we live in. As the 20th century shifted into an era of mass media and hyperconsumerism, Baudrillard argued that this coin had completely shattered. In Baudrillard's view, the modern sign has been violently severed from any real-world anchor. We no longer look at signs to understand reality. Instead, we consume signs for their sign value, their ability to grant us status, identity, and prestige within a matrix of other signs. When you buy a luxury brand, you aren't buying Saussure's functional signified object. You are buying an image that only refers to other images of wealth and sophistication. For Baudrillard, we are trapped in a self-referential loop where signs no longer represent the world, but instead construct a hyperreality that replaces it entirely. Welcome to the contemporary organizational landscape. Baudrillard laid out 4 stages of the sign. Originally, a sign represents a basic reality, but over time, the sign masks reality. Then, it masks the absence of reality. And finally, in the 4th stage, the sign bears no relation to any reality whatsoever. It becomes its own pure simulation. To put Baudrillard's concept into an organizational context, think about the metrics, the KPIs, the data dashboards, and the quarterly business reviews that dominate your working life. Originally, a spreadsheet was supposed to be a map of real human productivity. It was a tool to help understand a physical baseline. But in the post-structuralist office, the map has consumed the territory. The metric has completely replaced the reality. Employees quickly learn that it doesn't actually matter if they solve a problem, help a customer, or build a good product. What matters is that the dashboard looks green. If you can manipulate the data points, massage the slide deck, and check the boxes on the project management software, you are a superstar employee. Even if the underlying reality of the company is completely rotten. This is why your job feels so absurd. You are trapped in a Baudrillardian simulation. You are a simulated worker using simulated buzzwords, creating simulated value inside a hyperreal environment where everyone has collectively agreed to pretend the data points are real because their livelihood depends on it. The corporate office is a hall of mirrors, where symbols are feeding on other symbols, entirely divorced from the human world. The Frankfurt School sociologists thought that bureaucracy and ideology trapped us in a rigid, fixed enclosure. But the French philosopher Gilles Deleuze looked at the late 20th century and realized we were transitioning into something far more insidious. In his short prophetic essay, Postscript on the Societies of Control, Deleuze argued that we have moved past rigid disciplinary societies and entered the society of control. In a society of control, the walls are knocked down. The enclosures are gone, but that doesn't mean you are free. It means the prison has become boundless. Think about your smartphone and your laptop. They were marketed to us as tools of liberation. They allowed us to work from anywhere. But through a post-structuralist lens, work from anywhere simply means work everywhere. Control is no longer only a physical building you can walk out of at 5 p.m. Control is a digital network, a continuous modulation, a password that follows you into your bedroom, on your vacation, and into your weekend. The boundary between your work life and your human life has been entirely dissolved. Deleuze noted a fundamental difference between the old industrial era and the new corporate present. In the old era, you finished things. You finished school, you started a job, you retired. You moved from one closed box to another. In the society of control, nothing is ever finished. You are in a state of permanent training, continuous assessment, and infinite postponement. You must constantly reinvent your skill set. You must constantly update your credentials. You are never safe. You are never done. The finish line is perpetually moving. The misery of the modern worker doesn't only come from being locked in a cold, stable iron cage. It comes from being cast simultaneously out into a boundless, shifting desert of permanent precarity, where you are forced to run at full speed just to stay in the exact same place. So how do we fight back against a system like this? Both Frankfurt School critical theorists and post-structuralist thinkers argue that the social system manufactures our identities and desires. But post-structuralists like Foucault and Baudrillard are brutally honest. There is no pure human nature hiding underneath the machine waiting to be liberated. We are the ones wiggling the mouse. We are the ones curating our personal brands on social media. But there is a different kind of freedom hidden within this philosophy. It is the power of deconstruction. The moment you realize the corporate office is a simulation, the spell begins to break. The next time you sit in an absurd meeting listening to a manager speak in the hollow buzzwords, Or the next time you feel a wave of anxiety because a digital dashboard turned red, look at it through the post-structuralist lens. See it for what it is. A game of language and symbols that has no actual power over your intrinsic human worth, unless you choose to validate it. We cannot smash a centralized machine if the machine is decentralized inside our own habits. But we can refuse to take the simulation seriously. We can quiet quit the hyperreality. We can deliberately preserve spaces in our lives that are completely unmonitored, unoptimized, and unquantifiable. Spaces where we refuse to be a docile body. Step away from the screen. Look at the physical, messy, untrackable world around you. And remember that the simulation only exists as long as we all agree to keep playing our parts.